Hello. So this is part 2 of the Apex video. I made a few little changes just now, so I thought I might as well start recording. So I'm just going to show you, here's what we've got. This is what we got so far. So pretty not good still. I'm noticing that it kind of just sounds like a collection of sounds playing at the same time. What we want to try and do is make it flow in between all the different parts. It's kind of hard with clips like this. So let's just see what we've got. I'm going to just go through the groups one by one. I'm also going to adjust this rate thing, and we can see if things are going to sync up the way we're expecting. So we'll put this here. I'm going to try and like speed run this because this is going to be kind of boring. This is probably fine. I'll start with this group here. And basically, it sounds kind of tedious, but I'm going to just go through these one by one. I do have a shortcut on the keyboard that you should definitely set up. It's Alt Spacebar, and I can like whatever the mouse cursor is under, it'll just solo and play that. So my plan now is to go through all of these and make sure everything syncs up pretty perfectly, and it doesn't like go on for too long. Like you can see this stuff here. Like it's not a big deal, but we want to get that sort of level of polish where it's all sounding perfect. So we're going to want to stop sounds overlapping too much. Like, see this bit at the end? It's not the end of the world if you leave it in, but it's just a little bit messy. Do keep in mind that the rate is a little bit slower. So any editing I do now, it's not going to be like the exact thing you're hearing. Maybe I'll just set it to 1. So I don't like this end bit, so I'm just going to trim all this. I'll move this over. This is, oh Jesus, this is a lot louder because this is on aux, which is set to 0 instead of -10. So it's 10 dB louder than everything else. Sometimes I will put stuff on these channels, but it might be a bad idea. I'll move them down for now. And just so I don't tempt myself in the future, I'm going to delete these. Right, let's see what we've got here. That doesn't really sync up. Like, it's quite a cool sound, but just... And then does that sync up? And this goes on for too long. Maybe I want something there for when it like snaps into place. I'm just going to put something there now just so I don't forget in the future. I'll just use this, it doesn't really matter too much. And I'll pitch this up. So that's fine for now. So then we've got this thing here. I'm wondering if I should maybe make this mono. It fades in and out at kind of the wrong points. think this would work better. Ooh. And then it's kind of back to front, I think. So I'm just going to go to channel mode here. I never really do this, but I'm going to just say reverse stereo, maybe that. But it won't really matter too much because I think that's the main layer that you're hearing. So see, the idea here basically is to get this stuff like as tight as possible. See, that goes on for too long. And you're thinking like, oh, it's not like a big deal. But when these things happen over and over again, it loses the sync completely. And it just sounds like a bunch of noises playing at once. Now I'm thinking I might make this mono. So I know none of these sounds are particularly cool. But we're going to get to the more juicy design stuff later on. Once we've got the kind of foundation here, that's when I'm going to start adding some more interesting sounds. It's got a little pop at the end there. So when you're doing this stuff, never have the end like this. Otherwise you'll get like this. That little pop. And it drives me crazy. I think there's a setting in Reaper by default to have a tiny fade on the end, so you avoid all that. This sounds a bit too messy, this one. I'm just going to delete it. And this sounds too wide. So there's two things we could do here. We could just make it mono. That's one thing. Or we can change the width, which I think is probably the better way to do it. However, since there's a bunch of stuff on this track, I don't want to do it. I'm going to just make it mono. I'm probably going to delete this anyway. Let's just delete it. End that one. So if we listen back, this should be mostly synced up, this group here. So there's still gaps. That's fine. We'll do another pass to just like filling this stuff in. I want these to somehow like crossfade between each other. Yeah, so that works for me. I think if you try and match the pitch, that's probably the best way to do it. And then we'll just add a fade out here. And then that kind of just sounds like noise. I'll leave it for now. Yeah, we'll go through this group now anyway. So this is some more like designy stuff. I'm not convinced about this one. I think it needs to be higher pitch. So the red line's the next frame. So you can see it overlaps a little bit too much. I'm fine with just one frame. That works for me. And then this is very like static, so maybe we'll do something like this. I will add like an ambience layer probably in the end. But this will probably do for now. That needs to sync up a little bit better. I think that's kind of cool. What I might do is move this down just so it's all part of the same group. Maybe not. Because it is being processed. And I'll just pitch this up. That sounds good. Fade this in. And because it's really high pitched, it doesn't need to be loud. Your ears are naturally a bit more sensitive to this stuff, so make it quiet. I think this is a pig. It could be quite an interesting sweetener layer. I don't know what that is. We'll keep it. I'll just bring it down a little bit. I'm going to bring this back. Yeah, I'm going to have this come in a little bit early. Same with this weird pig sound. I'm going to edit it so it's a bit sharper. And then this is rubbish, so we'll get rid of that. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like any of this stuff. Yo, so that's like another cleanup pass. Let's just have a listen to this now. Okay, so it's not sounding very good still, which is fine. What I'm going to do, we're going to have a look and kind of see where the gaps are, then start filling out some more of this. So we can see we've got all this bit filled in. If you look at the pre-master thing here, and then there's a gap here, and you can see where it goes a bit quiet. I don't mind if it goes a little bit quiet, but yeah, let's just add some more sounds. I might start adding stuff to this group here, which, based on the template, is going to sidechain effects group 1, 2, and 3 to whatever goes here. So it's good for like big impacts and things like that. I shouldn't have deleted the aux channels because I kind of need them, but it's okay. Right. The aux just sounds a little bit empty to me. Yeah, I'm looking for like different sorts of textures basically. I like this high-end thing. But then I wonder if we could do something with this so it goes like high-end into this low-end sort of thing. Now, where I want the impacts, that's fine for now. I'm going to just start putting it on the sidechain group here. Just so I can roughly see. cool. We can probably use that. Maybe we can use this somewhere. For the sidechain group, I'm not going to add anything too long because it'll start getting a bit messy because it'll sidechain like the whole thing, and we don't want that. Doesn't work. Let's delete it. So I'll just pause the video and I'll just start putting some more sounds in. It could take quite a while, so yeah. Okay, so I've been messing about with it. Here's what we've got so far. Cool, so it needs a bit of a cleanup. Yeah, let's just do that now. Eventually the process of like adding all the sounds, then taking all the sounds away, it becomes like one thing. It's not like, oh, now I need to take all the sounds out. It kind of just naturally, you'll go through it as you're adding stuff and you'll just naturally take some things out. So I put a few things up here on the sweetener group. An explosion, whatever that thing is. And also this. It's like a kick drum synthesizer thing. It just sounds like this. Although I'll change the preset because I don't think that's very exciting. I'm just going to use, well, we can keep that preset, I guess. We can just bump up this, and then we can like adjust all of these. But I mean, the presets are pretty good anyway. It sounds like that. Yeah. It's probably a little bit too low. We'll just use a preset because they're quite good. It doesn't really matter what it is for now. I'll change it later probably. So this feels a bit empty here. You can see if we look at this waveform here, it kind of dies down here. So I don't think that this is too far in the background because it's too reverby, so it doesn't really do very much. I might just delete that. That's just a kind of lasery thing. We'll do that. I'll see what else I've got here. I haven't named any of these recordings, which is quite annoying. So something like this could be interesting. So we need to keep in mind how it's going to flow into the next thing. That's quite nice, but I just don't think it flows very well, and maybe it's to do with this. Cool, so we'll delete that. I don't think it's good anyway, but it's better than what it was. And that's what we're just going to do over and over again. Just make it a little bit better than how it was. That's too reverby. Let's try and move this up to this group here. So now that we've kind of got the basics down, I normally work kind of fast here. Like I'm not like, oh, how's this? Maybe we pitch it down, I'll pitch up. I'm just kind of quick and I just get through the editing as quick as possible. So I don't like that. That's very high pitch. This is going to probably clash because I'm going to... I'll put this here. If we have the kick here and here, it's going to be too much, so we'll just delete this for now. Later on we might shuffle this back, but for now I'm looking for the biggest gaps between the frames. So you're not going to put a sub here and then here. They're too close together. It's like 5 frames or something. So you'd have one here, then maybe here, then here. You know, it just kind of depends. But yeah, so there's a clicky thing there that I don't like. I've tried to add in transition whooshy type things. I don't think that's going to work. So kind of things in between the frames. That's not too bad. This kind of thing. Just so they transition a little bit nicer. I'll move this up to, well, if this is here, the transitions are going to overlap. So I'm going to, you can see like where the transient ends, kind of here. I'm going to just fade this in. And I'll bring this back a little bit. That's a bit too stereo for me. I'll probably end up deleting this. There was a high-pitched noise there that I didn't like. That tonal thing. I don't really like that, but I think it could work eventually. Get rid of this. Quite like that. This kind of, I don't like it individually, but I think it blends quite nicely with this thing here. We could maybe pitch that up. And they work quite nicely together. I'll just delete this. I like the sound for this bit. But there's something else I'm not too keen on. I think it's because it goes into this. Okay, so we'll delete that. Well, I won't delete it, I'll just move it over. Because we could use it maybe here. The playback's all a little bit weird. It's because I'm using the direct sound instead of ASIO. So it's a little bit laggy. It's just for the OBS settings. I kind of messed up this RME total mix thing, and I can't be bothered figuring it out. So yeah, it'll be a little bit like laggy, but I can cope with that. I've only got one project open, so it shouldn't be too bad. It's cool. So right now we go back to the start. Cool, so there's something I didn't like there. This one. Maybe we could do this. This isn't doing much. Let's just get rid of it. This could work. What I'm going to do is set up another group with some reverb on it. And all these like really harsh sounds, they can go through the reverb group. And then we'll sidechain that a little bit more heavily. So it'll be quite like a long reverb, but it'll be heavily sidechained through this group here. So we could probably just do that now because we know we're going to need to do it eventually. So I'm just going to... The reason I duplicate this instead of just making new tracks is just... Well, I mean, they've got reverb here, so that's quite handy. But so all the routing stays the same. So we'll delete driver. We'll do something like this. Then all these high track spacer, this can probably come up a little bit. And then release time can be like 100 milliseconds. So we'll just move these down. I'll just pause the video because it'll be quite boring to watch. Cool, so all done. I might have missed one or two. That's not really tonal, so I'm not going to send that to the reverb. And what I'll do is, we've got track spacer here. I'll just do something like that, and then cut there. And then on the mix, it's a bit harsh. So I'm just going to set this to 12K. I'll make it a little bit more gentle, but we don't need all the high-end stuff. Because we might want to add like EMF sounds, like and they tend to be quite harsh. I brought the volume down pretty quiet because they're quite harsh to listen to. And we don't need all the high-end information from that. Cool, so let's just hear the reverby stuff. You might hear it like the volume like dipping down, and that's just the sidechain. It's probably, I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit too loud, but we'll leave it for now. And then we'll just see. Cool. Okay, so there's a lot of noisy stuff here that I'm not super keen on, so I'm going to just start getting rid of some of it. I don't know if we need this. I feel like this should work. If I pitch this down. Close enough. Not that you can even tell. A lot of like high-end noise in the end of that. That works. I am going to bypass the thing here. The end's a bit messy. It cuts a few times and there's nothing for the transitions. I'm probably just going to leave it there for today because that's like a half-an-hour video and I want to keep these kind of short. So yeah, this is what we've ended up with. Cool, so it's still very messy, but I think some of the assets are quite decent. We just need to add some effects to the groups. I want to do a little bit more side chaining. There's all this clicky stuff, and I think we could add that to a separate group, and then we could do some processing to that with transgressor here. So we could bring out all these sort of clicky things. So it maybe sound like this. Okay, not like that because that's terrible, but it will sound good, hopefully. So yeah, I think we could separate things out into groups a little bit more. I'd like to get like a filter freak group going on. I think that'd be cool. So if we just put driver on the mix here, basically filter freak. I want to just kind of hear what that does. So you get all that like clicky stuff. It kind of tightens it up a little bit, which is what we want. So you see, this could be a really cool effect because the bass has got like that weird fluttery movement. Then we could add stuff on top of that. Obviously, don't put driver on the pre-master, but just as an example of how this could work. Then, just if we were to bump this up a little bit, I want to just hear how this would sound. So the reason the filter is not opening is just because it's too quiet. And then it goes to the pre-master, then it gets bumped up a bit there. So by putting this here, it just bumps the volume up a tiny bit. And then we need to bring down distortion. And then the release, because we want it quite snappy. Oh, you know what the problem is? This. So see, I quite like that sound. Just for fun, to give it a bit more of a sci-fi feel, I'm going to add a vocoder here. I don't like it. But yeah, you can see how that would have potential to be quite a cool effect. So we're going to do that, but we're going to make our own group for that sort of stuff. Probably in the next video. But yeah, I'll leave it there for today. Thank you. Bye.